Well, good evening to all of you and welcome to Metcalfe Elementary School. I'm Karen Clark, Superintendent of Alachua County Public Schools, and we are glad that you are all here this evening. So as you all know, there are some really big changes coming to Metcalfe Elementary School, and we're very excited about that. And part of why we're here this evening is making sure that the community and the Metcalfe community is a part of that process. And so that's why we're here. That's why we're here this evening. The Metcalfe principal, Mr. Quetta Roll, who's here. Yay for Ms. Roll. Yes. Thank you to her and her team for their hospitality this evening and putting up with us, getting everything all set up. As you all know, Metcalfe went from a D to a B under her leadership, which is phenomenal. Yes. That's a big round of applause. So yes, it does deserve that accolade, and now we're going to have a learning environment to match this fabulous student achievement. So we can only imagine where that will take us. So, as you know, last November, the citizens of our community were very gracious in passing a half-cent sales tax initiative for our schools. It was something that was desperately needed. We were facing a facilities crisis. There's no better word to describe it but crisis. We were at that critical mass where we had to do something, and the needs were just so great that really that was kind of the option that we had to really be able to tackle all the needs that our school buildings have, and that's across the district. And in this case, Metcalfe needed a little extra TLC, and you're going to see what fabulous ideas are rolling around in some collective heads this evening, and give us your thoughts on that as well. And actually, Metcalfe is one of the biggest projects we're undertaking, as well as Howard Bishop. So right here in like a 1-mile radius, there's going to be a lot of dirt moving, a lot of construction, cranes, wrecking balls, all that good stuff that goes along with that. So that's going to be pretty exciting for this quadrant of the community right here, to see all of this happening at the same time. I think we're kind of brave to do that at the same time, but we're going to sure give it our best shot. And honestly, in a couple of years from now, you're not going to be able to recognize either campus. So we are very, very excited about that opportunity as well. So I'm going to bring up our Assistant Superintendent for Operations, Mr. Paul White. He's going to give you a quick rundown of what's planned and what's coming and what's already happening, because we've already started some things. And I know you are as anxious as I am to see dirt moving. I've given the charge to the staff that I want a dirt moving at every school in 5 years. That's a pretty big task, but the plan is right now that they're going to be able to do that. So I'm pretty excited about that and thankful that our staff is here to support this work this evening, but that they're also up for the task of making sure that we're doing that, because people voted, they want to see something, and I get that. So we want to make sure that that's happening. Now, there is a lot of stuff that has to happen before we can actually bring in that wrecking ball, which I have called first dibs on. I really want to do that. I've never done that before, and that's something I've always wanted to do, is take that wrecking ball into a building. It sounds like something that would be very satisfying to me. But before we can do that, there's a lot of things that have to happen, and this is part of that process. Paul's also going to share a timeline with you of how the work's going to progress and how we're going to get through that process. And then he's going to turn over the microphone to the team from Rhodes Brito Architects, and they are the team that has been selected to do the redesign of Metcalfe. So you're going to hear what they've been thinking about, but then you're also going to have opportunities to share your thoughts and ideas about that process as well. And at the end, we're going to take a few minutes to let you know how you can keep up with the progress at Metcalfe. We're going to take you through that part of the process so you can keep up. So, 6 months from now, if you want to see what's going on, you're going to be able to do that very easily. So we're going to show you how you can access that information. So, Mr. White, you're on.
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. I want to provide some context to where we are. What we can do is move forward with our new superintendent to do something truly great. When my staff and I talk about the sales tax, we say how awesome it is to have the opportunity to change schools in Alachua County for generations to come. Every child, regardless of where they live, will go into a quality classroom, making it a positive environment for our teachers to teach and our children to learn. So that was in June of 2018 at a community meeting with about 160 residents where we talked about the possibilities for schools, particularly schools on the eastern side of the county. And there was some concern and there was some reservation. We had that meeting, and at the end of it, there was a consensus there that people supported the redevelopment, creating a new Metcalfe and a new Howard Bishop. The vote was November of 2018, and we received our first dollars in March of 2019. So here we are, 11 months after the vote, to once again hear what your ideas are. I am so excited about the opportunity to deliver on what we talked about a year ago, and I appreciate the superintendent's support in getting us there and making that decision. So what we want to do tonight is get your input. Rhodes Brittle has some preliminary things that they want to address and have you have some input on. We have boards up here for you to, and sticky notes somewhere around for you to put up your issues and concerns, and we'll go through that. And then at some point we'll come back with a follow-up meeting to say, okay, we've listened, we've heard, and here's what we can do with this opportunity. Before Rhodes Brittle comes up, and when we were actually doing the walkthrough of all the schools, my words to them was, at the end of the day, when the school's done, we want everybody to walk in and go, wow. So that's what we're shooting for. You know, we've got a strong academic team in place, and now we want to create a beautiful environment for learning and teaching for our students. So we're going to go through this process. We anticipate starting construction in the summer of 2020. School ends in June. We expect dirt to be moving in that same month. So in that process, we'll select a contractor. We're doing what's called construction management at risk. They'll be working together with the architect to give us the best prices, the best design, so we can be as cost effective as possible. So again, we want your input. We want your comments. If you're shy, you can just make your comment and put it up on the board. If not, this is an opportunity to get input from the community as we proceed with this process. So what we end up with is reflective of the community and what you would like to see.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Byron Lestraps. I'm a principal with the firm Rhodes & Brittle Architect. We want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to have this project and to work and meet this wonderful community. We look forward in working together with you and coming up with some great plans and ideas. I just want to tell you a little bit about us. We're from Orlando. We have two offices. One in Orlando is our headquarters. We're downtown. And another one is in the Cape Canaveral area. We've been in business going on 24 years, and we have almost 50 employees. We've been fortunate. Education has been a large part, probably a third of our revenue in the last 20-something years have been doing schools and a lot of K-12 design. We're a hands-on firm, and that means sometimes when you see someone in my position, a principal in a firm, I come here, I market, I say these wonderful things, and you never see me again. No, you're going to see my name on drawings. You're going to see me turning dirt and getting my shoes dirty in this whole process. So I'm going to be here with you guys in this whole community throughout this whole project. I don't want to talk too much about me, but I have over 30 years experience. This hair was once black, but you know, that happens over the years. Ruffin Rhodes is to the left. He's one of the founding principals of the firm. Unfortunately, he had a conflict tonight. Normally, the two of us would tag team and really do this job. So you'll see him around now and then. Just to give you an idea, some of the schools we've done in the Central Florida area, we've done over 25, 30 schools. A lot of them are similar, and one of the good things I can assure you, during construction, students will be here. So we're going to have to maintain two activities, construction and maintain education. And we've done a lot of those schools, and a lot of that deals with proper planning, working with the staff, the principal, and also with the CM. And also the way we design it to make sure that all the utilities and all the safety features are still in place. Now I'm going to move on. We're going to talk about Metcalfe, and that's why we're here. I'm not here to just make assumptions. With my 30 years of experience, I have a lot of tricks in my bag, but I don't want to pull them out. I need to understand what this community wants, what the school wants to be, before we can make any assumptions, which we don't want to assume. We want to kind of really boil down to see what direction we want to go as a community on this whole project. Right now, I'm just going to go over to you about the history of our campus. You can see the original buildings from 1 to 10, they were original buildings, which were constructed from about 1959 until about the late 60s. In 1979, this ESC building was built, which we're going to talk more about. And then finally, the buildings we're in now, these buildings here and the media center and admin, that was built in 1993. Part of our whole process is that we're going to demolish these buildings in blue. Those buildings went through a custody process. They have a green light to be demolished. You ask, why aren't these buildings? Well, they're still in good shape, and even if we wanted to demolish them, we couldn't do it. This didn't qualify to be demolished. So when we look at an active campus like this, we try to look at how to minimize temporary facilities, where do we put kids during construction. One of our ideas and advantages we have this green area here. This would be the most logical and economical place to build our new building. Because what can happen is we can cut the campus and divide it into this kind of area, and then from that we can have a construction site with a separate construction access and everything that we can build a new building at that time and that site while class resumes for another year. From that, we have a final product. And our final product would be to build 600 new permanent student stations in this building. And this is probably going to be a 2-story building. As you can see, we would build that, we would do some additional site work, and we would rework the front parking area, and this would remain our parent loading, and also the bus would be here. Keep in mind now, we're going to increase our student count here. So some things that may not be issues now may be. We're going to look at, well, is the food services adequate enough? We're going to have traffic problems when parents are coming to pick up their kids in the afternoon. There are going to be more buses. All of these things that we're going to take in consideration in redoing this whole campus. Some of the things that we need to talk about is Building 11, and that's why we're here too. If you have comments, what are we going to do with that building? Right now, I think it's serving as a dental clinic for the students right now. Does it maintain that? Is it something that it works with the middle school across the street? Is it something that we do as a family services building? Or is it remains part of our campus? Where it's located, it could be separate from the campus, or it can still be integrated into the campus. One of the things we like to do is propose some additional site work here, parking, so that this building could work independent if that was needed to be. Other things we're going to do is improvements into the courtyard and also in the playing field areas, and improve the stormwater on the site. And one of the things we're trying to look at is to try to have the majority of the building in this area and to really focus on security. That is where we are on the building in our master plan now. These buildings here, which are remaining right here, they are going to be renovated. And one of the things that we're trying to do, we think when we replan this, some of our preliminary ideas that we've looked at is we're probably going to rearrange some of this front canopy in that area, and also we have the opportunity of giving a new front door to the campus and to the main entry, because we want to keep the main entry here. But we also are looking at making improvements to the administration to give it more of a front door image here. We're trying to increase the view of it, and so we have that opportunity now, since we're going to be doing some modifications in the front of the building. So there's no reason not to. Building 3 is art and music. It can be torn down, but we would like to look and investigate and see if we can continue renovate it and see if we could reuse it. It'll probably help our budget by maintaining it and not building new construction there. What's your story? What do you want to see in this project? Every project we do is unique. Everybody has a story, everybody has a personality. There's unique challenges that we have that I don't know about that maybe we could share and expose tonight. That's why we're here. And also any kind of solutions you may have. So those are the things that we're going to talk about tonight. So what is important to you? What we're going to do is have you write down some of your concerns and issues that you'd like to see addressed, okay? And then also, again, we talked about, we had index cards that you can write down any questions you would like to ask after this presentation that we'll pick up. So I'm going to go through some of the things that we're going to be dealing with during this process. Design features and opportunities. Design features could be trees. You know, are the trees very important for you? Is it something that you want to connect more to the community, to the streets? Or what are some other things that we can take advantage of in making this campus great? Do you like the courtyard? Is that something we want to maintain and you like that? So if there's any ideas that you may have which would deal with design features. Again, we talked about a front door. Does it need more of an image, you know, from the community standpoint? So we want to look at those kind of things. Our construction process. Well, construction, if you live in the neighborhood, does anybody live near this community? Okay, so you're probably concerned. There's going to be dust, there's going to be noise, there's going to be beep beep in the night, there's going to be concrete pours perhaps at 4 o'clock in the morning. Those are the kind of things we're going to think about, but we're going to have to work and make sure that you're, you know, notified of a lot of these things so that nobody is surprised. You know, why is there a concrete truck in my neighborhood all the time? So those are things that we need to understand. Construction is not always easy, but it is a sign of progress. So sometimes that's what it takes for progress. So we're trying to do this in basically one complete pass. We're thinking if you can start in June at the end of school, work the summer, renovate some of the buildings, have that whole year to build the new building, and then from that, have another summer to complete other site work. And then you may have some residual work in the site plan. I mean, you know, doing, well, let's see, where were we? You know, doing this kind of work, because to tear the buildings down, that may take into the school year, but that's something that could be minor. But, you know, we're looking at, you know, a summer, a year, and a summer, plus maybe 1 or 2 months to close out on this project. So by doing that, that's going to save us a lot of money the faster we can get this project completed. The other thing is historical, cultural, and neighborhood issues. So is there anything special, historical, that's sacred here, that you'd like to preserve and maintain here? Those are the things we would like to know and hear. I mean, is there any famous stories here? I did a school in New Smyrna a while back, and I realized a great rocker went to elementary school there, Neil Young. So, you, all right. You're a legend, huh? Other thing is site concerns. You know, this may be with the staff. You're concerned with safety, security. Do we have drainage problems? Traffic? Do we have proper sidewalks around here? Do kids have, you know, bad areas that, you know, when they ride their bikes or walk to campus? Do we have areas that we need to identify on and off campus that we can look at fixing? Those are things we need to know about. And safety concerns is that same thing. And that means outside the campus, internally, inside our buildings. How do we design a safer building? There's always debate, windows, no windows, walls, places to hide, locks, you know, types of locks in classrooms, electronic access locks. Every time you walk out the door is a building is secured and needing a card or ID tag to get in. The one thing we like to do is when we repurpose or redesign this campus, we'd like to have a single point of entry. You know, that means the only way you get in this campus is the front door. You know, so we would look at stuff like these doors here that could be a liability, but those are things that we could address and fix, whether it's with hardware or, you know, secured access. So those are the things we definitely want to evaluate throughout the campus. And also, in general comments.
I just meant the walking to, Well, the thing is, like, that's not secure. Yeah. Well, I have time to get regulations that we have, so we can, you know, expand the amount of.
So do you have parents come from this side and parents come from this side, and like which one can go in turn? And it's like
classrooms while this is going on.
Okay.
So all this should be being built while this is going on. When this is done, they'll move it through back over to this area. Oh no, that's the existing buildings.
But they're so enrolled that there's not enough?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So they'll move everybody.
I teach at Bishop, and
Okay.
my understanding.
We put this on you. Hey, I don't know if it's gonna make it, but I'll put it on you.
I love that idea. Absolutely.
It may not work, but we'll put it there.
Excuse me, let me like.
Well, what's instead of saying bullet, how can I say instead of saying bullet, what's a safer way instead of saying bullet? Hurricane.
This is my neighborhood. We've lived in this neighborhood since 1966. My children, 2 boys, the first one started to kindergarten in 1976 and went through 5th grade, went to Bishop and then to East Side. The second one started 2 years later, same path. So my comments tonight to you are, in 1978, my first job was in 2nd grade, and they had a child here that had a tracheostomy. No one to take care of it. Her mother worked at Takachali, and she would come at lunchtime to take care of it. Can you imagine waiting until lunchtime to have it taken care of? So one day I was talking to Bob Prine, he was the principal at the time, and I said, you know, I can take care of her, and I'm not working, but I have children in this school. I'm an RN. And so we talked about it, and he talked about it to other people, and he hired me as the first nurse in the county for physically impaired children. Well, my first job was really to take care of her, but I did take care of all the kids in the school. And then as she got older, and as some of the children got older, they went to Bishop, and I followed them there, and then I also followed them to Eastside because they had a program there for them. It was such a nice thing. I worked in it for 6 years, and I still see some of those kids around town, and they come to me because they look different now than they did when they were little, so I still keep in touch with some of them. And what a blessing it's been to me over the years to be able to do that. So school is a big part of my life. One thing I want to say is, I went to school of nursing at Alachua General Hospital, and when they tore that down, I did a lot of crying, and I'm afraid I'm going to feel the same way about this, because it's like losing a friend. But I understand there's progress to be made, and I hope it'll be in the right direction.
Thank you.
I have one other thing to say, I think, and I did put that comment on the board over here. The ditch on the north side of Metcalfe and Howard Bishop has always been a concern for safety for the children walking to school or even on bicycles. So I think that would be something that needs to be incorporated into that construction site, if the city will let you do it. They should cover that. Just put it underground. So that's my big comment. Thank you all for letting me talk.
Thank you. She had something.
I just want to comment to her comment. That ditch is Hatchet Creek. That is not a ditch. That is Hatchet Creek. If you Google it, you will see Hatchet Creek. It goes all the way to Noonan's Lake.
But part of it is underground.
Yeah, because humans have covered it. But it is a creek. It's an actual creek. So you can't cover a creek.
Does anybody else have any questions they want to verbally ask?
Okay. All right, we have another question. I'll read it out. The current bike area seems very underutilized, if at all. Could there be a plan to incorporate it into the more centralized location that is easier to access? And want me to answer it? Okay. The answer to that would be yes, because as you can see, we're probably going to be proposing a new building where that bike rack is. I don't think we need that big of a bike rack. You know, we normally design it for either 10 or 20% of your population. So we'll probably need 12, maybe, loops. at most. And then we would put it in a place that is more under supervision, whether it's administration, classrooms, and we'll put it in a place where you got to think about kids accessing it, so having a straight path so they don't cross the traffic, you're not getting them mixed up in the parent pickup or the buses, all those kind of things. You want to have a clear pathway. So yes, we are going to move it. It'll probably be poured on a concrete slab, perhaps with a chain link fence enclosure that could be locked during the day, if that's how you want to do it, but it'll be more secure. Any other comments?
I have some. I didn't write it down, I'm sorry, but
Can we accept that?
thank you. Even though this is a place of education, it has become a place to protect kids. And it is the most important thing that we do. And I think that should be taken extremely seriously.
Your teacher, I'm assuming, they have a lot of safety concerns and issues, and I think that is something we want to look into. So we talked with Suzanne, we had meetings earlier today, and we talked about safety.
So when you look at our website and the project list for each school, safety improvements, you'll see that's the first thing for every school. And we're fortunate here in Alachua County that we were already in the position of doing many of the things that the state recommended later. We already had law enforcement officers in the school. We had maybe 4 that chaired. Now we have officers at every school. We've been training, as you know, on safety drills, and we'll be looking at locks and our camera systems and all that. So that is part and parcel for us with every school that we're doing. And you heard Byron mention, looking at single point of entry. Keeping you safe, keeping the children safe is a priority, and that'll be part of the fabric of the design for this school and every other one.
And bulletproof windows?
And all of those things.
What about the windows?
Bulletproof windows?
We won't have bulletproof windows, but we'll address the windows. There are a number of ways to make those more secure, and the whole issue of visibility, and how you accomplish that and still let natural light in, all those things need to be taken into consideration. So we'll look at that.
Yeah, and there's other things, is surveillance cameras and things like that. A lot of older schools don't have that. We'll have integrated into the campus. One thing I want to point out is we read a lot of these comments, and I really think, wow, they're great, and really I've learned and picked up a few things that I didn't know before. So, especially your concerns with security, the trees and all of these things that people want to maintain and the character of this campus. So it's a lot of things that will really change our views and how we're going to approach the design of this project, or not necessarily change, but to enhance and direct us and lead us to be more accurately to find a great solution for you guys. So, okay, anything else? Any other comments? Ms. Clark?
And just in case when you get home and you think of something else, which I'm sure you will, there's the opportunity to send us that information so that we can include that as part of this design work, because it is very important. And sometimes when you're looking big picture, sometimes the smallest details, like how tall is a window, where does that window go as it relates to safety and security, or as it relates to how do we get light in a building, we want to make sure that we have all those areas covered and at least address or look at all of these things. So anytime, here in the very near future, if you think of something, make sure you send it our way. So I just want to do a couple of things before we wrap up this evening. On your way out, there will be a handout that looks like this. This is just a one-page handout. Some of you may have picked it up on the way in, but if not, grab another one on your way out. Just to talk about what's planned for Metcalfe and a timeline. And we have one of these actually for every school in the district, because obviously we can't do everything at one time. That's With the staff we have, that would be next to an impossible project management feat, although I have the utmost confidence in them. That's kind of giving them a very, very gargantuan task. But it talks about everything that will be done at this school beginning in 2019. And so we've already started really that process by engaging the architect and starting that design. That's kind of the project commencing. But then, of course, the dirt will move in a few months from now once we get all the boring part finished with the paperwork and permits and all that good stuff that we have to do as part of this work. And so then the other piece is on our website. And if you click on the facilities link, you can click on elementary schools and go to Metcalfe, and it's a dashboard of progress towards all of our projects. So if you want to check on Metcalfe or any other school in the district for that matter, you can check. And as we do updates and as we do the work, we'll be putting that on the dashboard. So you'll be able to see what's been done, how much has been spent. That's something that was very important that I wanted to make sure that they included. When we ask the community to support our schools more than what they already are in paying their property taxes, I take that very seriously. And we want to be very responsible and very transparent with your tax dollars. That's what we want to do. And so the best way I know to do that is put it out there. You know, if we're spending $9,376,000.92, that's what you need to see that's being spent on this school. That was just a number out of my head. That's not really the number. But I want to make sure that the public understands and that the community understands that we're very appreciative of the faith that the community has in us to be able to do this work, and we take that responsibility very seriously. So if at any time you want to see the progress, you can go to our website and check that out. We are very excited to get so much input, and we will be working with our team, the architects and the rest of the team, to build you guys a really, really beautiful school. So we're excited and we're so ready to move forward. Thank you so much for coming, and have a great evening.